Champion comes out with a brand new generator with a brand new engine, so we'll see if this happens to be a good option for you. This generator comes in at $699 at the time of this video, is rated at 4,000 starting watts, 3,000 while running on gasoline, and 2,700 running watts while utilizing propane. Now after you open the box, this is the items that you'll see is a bunch of warning labels, also your manual, which you should read this. It will come with a quick start guide, also a bunch of stickers, along with some swag if you want any of that. It will also come with a propane regulator, which this has an external load regulator, which I'm more fond of the ones that are already inside of the generator. It will come with a funnel, and it'll also come with oil, which is nice because you don't have to run to the store to go out and get it, and plus this is pre-measured, so it does make it quick to get your generator up and running, but it doesn't come with any tools, so you will need your own spark plug wrench, which is a 13/16. On the front of the generator, it comes with a 12-volt socket, also your propane connection. This is super easy. You just simply line up the little black tab with the little hole, press it into place, then slide the collar back to disconnect. And you also have a circuit breaker up top. Now you do have parallel ports, but you have to use Champion's proprietary ones, which I'm not totally a fan of because there's a lot of other options out there. You will have the Eco button, which it starts off in Eco, oil indicator light and overload or reset button, and a carbon monoxide indicator light. It is also equipped with a TTR30 plug capable of 25 amps, along with a pair of 120 volt outlets capable of about 20 amps. This is also a neutral floating generator. On the side of the generator, it does come with a quick start guide, and when it comes to your selector switch, you will have your propane, gasoline, and also choke settings. One thing about this switch is kind of nice. It does have a detent setting, so every time you move it, it kind of automatically stops into position. It's not something super special, but it is kind of nice, and the pull cord does have a little bit of protection around it, that way it doesn't fray against the plastic. On the other side of the generator, one feature I do like is these tabs. These are little quarter-turn thumb screws, which makes it easy to take off the side panel, so no tools needed. Now something that is new is this engine. This is from Shinrei Power Equipment Company. This is a 149cc engine. Now this is something I haven't seen before or even heard of this company, not like the standard Rado Engineering, Lonson, or even Dakar engines. So it is kind of interesting to see, but even if you take off the air filter cover, one thing I do like is that they did pre-oil the air filter. Not everybody does this, so it's just a little thing that I do like. Now when it comes to accessing the spark plug, there is some room on top and on bottom, and you even have a customer service number right on the top. Now one thing is that if you have a really big hand, this might be a little bit tight. I have pretty large hands, but I can still get in here to pull the cover off and actually access the spark plug boot without taking the cover off. But those quick little tabs make it easy to remove it, and I can still put it back on, so servicing should be pretty easy. The side panel also has foam on it for sound dampening and information including RPM, oil, and more. You also have the back, which this is where you're going to have to remove this plate in order to service the spark arrestor. It also comes with a fuel gauge on top, which a lot of new models are not coming with. Now, I always recommend using a fuel stabilizer or conditioner because sometimes it is required to actually keep your warranty. And if you're looking for a great gas can, these from SureCan are great. I've been using this for a couple years now and it holds up very well. Now, one thing I did notice is that like a lot of other generators, they have a fuel strainer. This one doesn't have anything, which it just really blocks some of the larger debris. Also, if you've seen some of my other videos, this fuel pump is a great addition for extended run times. Unfortunately, because of the size of this fuel cap, it actually doesn't fit. But this is a cool item to have, and you can use this on other models because you can use an extended 6-gallon tank and it simply pumps the fuel in there and a float shuts it off. It's a really cool device, but not actually able to be used on this model. Ready to run, this generator weighs 52 pounds with just a third of a tank of fuel. Okay, first fire up, so we'll put it in the choke position. Now one thing I like to do is just pull the cord a few times to move some oil. This will also help prime the generator as far as getting fuel into the carb. And boom, one big pull, fires right up, and away it goes. Alright, well, what do we think? Sounds good so far, looking good. Now we'll do some sound tests and some load tests in a minute, but I am going to break this in real quick, get about an hour and a half on it before I start doing the full load test on it. So there is our Eco button, so if we go ahead and press this, now you can hear it rev up, and then that load indicator light, that'll turn red when it ends up overloading or you're getting too close, and that's how you would reset it. And press that again. Now this generator does have a fuel shutoff. If you go inside the manual and look, it says set to propane, let it run for a little bit, and then it'll just run out of gas on its own. Okay, so first oil change, it's been about 45 minutes, and I love using this little thing. It's only like 18 bucks, totally worth it. And look at this, just sucks it out. You don't have to lift the generator or tip it. And that's all of it right there. Plus you can pre-measure. Now take a look how dirty that is. Now some people are probably going to want to see it. I honestly don't care anymore. But throw the oil into your waste bin. And now if the new oil is somewhat warm, it'll be really easy to draw up. If it's really cold, it can actually be a little bit hard to draw this up. But it makes oil changes super quick. Look at this. You put it right in. You can see the oil come up to the bottom of the threads. And then you're done and away you go. It takes like 5 minutes or less. Okay, sound and load test time. Now I've got about an hour and a half on the generator, and what we're going to do is do a sound test at 23 feet. Those of you that have been with me for a while know that this is my little mark that I use, and it's 23 feet away, which is what companies use to measure this at a quarter load at 23 feet away. But I will show you RPM real quick because we are going to do this during the sound check as well. Now this is no load and at low idle. This is as low as it'll go at 3,300 RPM and no load on it. So this is as quiet as it gets. We'll turn eco mode off. And now as we look one more time, so this is going to be with probably a 70%, 80% load, 4,300 RPM. Now this generator will rev up, or at least it says on the specs, all the way up to 4,600 RPM, which is its rated RPM. Okay, this will be a sound check at about 23 feet and 340 watts, give or take. This is going to be the quarter load test at approximately 750 or 700. This is a sound check at almost 1,000 watts. About 1,560 watts. And this is going to be 2,200 watts. And keep an eye on the voltage. We really want to stay at about 112 and above. And this is basically a max load of 2,900. And just a note, the red light is on. Okay, so if you look, the red light is on. We're pretty much maxed out at 2,900 watts. This is going to overload and basically shut off in a minute. And if you look at our RPM, now granted the gauge could have a little room for error, but it is saying 4,750. So it is just basically something for reference. Okay, so I'm about 12, maybe 15 feet from the generator. It's doing that 1,600 watt load from earlier. And again, whenever you add something like grass or rocks or anything just to help muffle the sound, it's going to greatly reduce the noise. So look at it now. This was much higher. This was about 68 dB at about 23 feet away when we were on the concrete. So much different when you add different elements. Now if you are going to use propane, it will say in the manual to put it into the choke position. You typically don't need to because the tank is pressurized, but it will say pull on the cord 3 times. This will help kind of prime the air out of the line, and then really you just give it a pull and it should fire up pretty quick. Now I did do some max load on propane, and I've done this a few times. It'll last about 5 minutes with that red light on, but it is doing 2,900. It's rated for 2,700, so let's shut this off. Now the red light goes away, and this is about 2,200 is where I'm running right now. We're going to turn this back on, but I did see the voltage drop a few times on this. It wasn't horrible, but it did go below about 110 like once. So let me turn this back on. 110, 19, but then right back up. And again, this is 2,900 RPM, so we are overloading the unit. I mean, overall, I wouldn't call this a bad thing because you're definitely pushing it beyond its limits. And it is holding steady at 115, so it's not an issue. Now again, when it comes to this propane setup, I'm not a total fan with this because one, it's a short cord, and sometimes in cold conditions, you take the propane tank and put it behind a warm fan. This helps keep it from freezing, or at least your regulators from freezing, but The cord is so darn short, you're almost putting it right on the exhaust, and it does kind of kink it, so I tend to put it a few feet farther back, about 2 more feet, you know, just to give it a little bit of space. But I'm just not a fan of this setup myself. But you do get the little holder that goes on the handle, and then it holds the cord, so it does keep it together, that way it's ready for use. Okay, so a couple pieces of information you may want to know. One, this is a new engine, so I don't really know much about it, but it is a steel sleeve. So that is nice because you will get extended run hours out of it. Now, this is a new engine that you're also going to find, I bet, inside of the Win 3600. You will also find it inside of the Pulsar GX model 4000. This is actually known because I had a friend look it up for me. Now, one thing is that all these motors and some of these models are all made by that Shinrei company, right? They just changed the outer plastic. Like the Win unit, totally going to be almost exactly the same thing, just with maybe a couple different features. The Pulsar might be quite a bit different, but it will use the same power source as far as that Shinrei 149cc engine, and you may even find it in some other models. Now again, when it comes to this propane piece, I don't particularly like this one, because one is that this here can actually strip if you're taking it off. This is just pot metal and aluminum. It's super soft, so you can ruin this, and I've done it before. I've had to re-tap this and do all kinds of things after I broke it, so that's how I know. But that's why I like the ones with the load regulator already inside if you're going to utilize this in an RV and you want to use propane. It makes the connection much easier and much quicker versus having to modify this with a brass fitting and more. You can do it, just be really careful. Now, if there's a generator you want me to compare this to, let me know down below, or if there's another model you want me to check out, I can look into that as well. I hope this information helped you out. Make sure to subscribe, and I hope to see you guys in another video.